How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about James Mad Dog Mattis retiring as the Secretary of Defense. Now, the news of this came just one day after Trump said that he would remove all U.S. troops from Syria. Also Afghanistan maybe, but the Syrian thing is definitely set in stone. We're coming home ASAP, soon, maybe even before Christmas. Many people in the intelligence community are upset about this. They're saying, hey, we can't abandon Syria. We have the Kurds there. If we leave, that's going to be a betrayal to them. We still have some ISIS fighters remaining, although they're in very small groups. We need to eliminate them. We don't want to create a vacuum when other people come in and they do things. But Trump's like, okay, this is one of my campaign promises. I ran on the whole thing of not being an interventionist overseas, not creating any more conflicts, and ending the conflicts that we have. When Trump said he's going to remove the troops from Syria, he said, the only reason why we're there is to defeat ISIS, and mission is accomplished. Others are saying that he's playing into the hands of China and Russia, which is also kind of what James Mattis said in the resignation letter. He's talking about, Mattis that is, he's talking about, we don't want to have China and Russia impose their authoritarian view on the world, all this, that, and the third. In Syria, you have Russia and China there. But the issue with Syria is that the U.S. was not invited, but we were there, and we had a relatively small force compared to other nations. China and Russia, however, weren't invited there. So let's just get this straight. Syria, as far as I know, is a sovereign nation. If they invite other countries to help them with their conflict, isn't that who should be there if they would like to be there, rather than an uninvited guest who does not have that much to gain from the particular conflict? And if Trump's going to be a non-interventionist, why would you be over there uninvited, stepping on the toes of other nations of which you may get into a serious conflict and battle with? In a letter that Mattis wrote to Trump, he said that he'll be leaving February 28th, 2019, and that'll give him enough time to find a suitable replacement, somebody that shares this same worldview on Syria and other things. He didn't say Syria specifically, but you can tell that that's what's going on here. Also in the letter, Mattis was like, well, I agree with Trump that we should not be the world police, but he was also talking about the UN, this defeat ISIS coalition of like 74 nations. So you don't want to be the world police, but you want to be kind of a part of a global force police, if that makes any sense. So basically, rather than having the U.S. by itself be the global police, the world police, you want to have the U.S. and a select few nations be the world police, or the world enforcers of democracy. To me, that sounds the exact same thing like being the world police, maybe even worse, because you want to be part of a one world government with other nations that dictate to individual sovereign nations what they can and cannot do. Okay, maybe the whole Saudi Arabia thing ticked Mattis off as well, because that's part of it. In the letter, he was talking about we don't want to betray our allies. So who is an ally that we're betraying with the Saudi Arabia thing? I don't know. Maybe Turkey. Is Turkey an ally? I don't know if they are or if they're not. I think if anybody would be an ally, it'd be Saudi Arabia more than Turkey. Okay, I mean, that's just the reality of it, but that's a whole different story, and I move on from that. Some people on the right are kind of upset about Mattis leaving, but I ask you this: why are you upset? I know you like his name, Mad Dog. That's cool, right? But what does James Mattis actually believe in when it comes to policy? If you're like myself, you're a non-interventionist. You don't want to be involved in foreign wars and conflicts that do not suit our interests. You want to protect our nation and our borders first. Okay? If there is a conflict overseas that directly is going to impact us, that may require us to be there to protect our nation and to ensure our safety, that's a different story. But if we're over and in place where we're not invited to get rid of a threat that doesn't really exist anymore and it's not going to help us, we have to ask the question, why are we there? Trump is a non-interventionist. He's not a war hawk like some neocons are, people like Hillary Clinton included. Before she even came into the running for the 2016 campaign cycle, she said that if she were to be elected, she would attack Iran immediately, right away, ASAP. So who would you rather want in there, and who would you rather want as far as their mindset in the government? Somebody that says we don't need to be overseas fighting wars that don't pertain to us. We need to protect our nation, our borders. Or do you want somebody talking about, trying to align with our allies in NATO and these global coalitions and staying in Syria, staying in Afghanistan, attacking Iran, and then trying to be hostile towards Russia and China? What's the point in all that? That's not going to help us. If you are hostile towards Saudi and Russia, those are the two top oil producing nations outside of the USA. I don't really know who's 1, 2, and 3, but top 3 in no particular order is US, Russia, Saudi. So why would you attack two big oil producing nations, and then China, which is the top manufacturer, and then other smaller nations, which the bigger nations have allegiances with? What's the point in doing that? Do you want to have one world government? Do you want to enact global calamity? So I know many of you may like Mattis, but you got to ask yourself, what kind of policy was he for? Hopefully we get somebody in there that's going to be a non-interventionist, a non-globalist, and a person that's going to send troops abroad only when absolutely needed for our own interests and not for the global interests. So what do you think? Do you think it was a good thing that James Mattis has resigned, or whatever the case may be? Is it a bad thing? If it's good, let me know why. If it's bad, let me know why. I don't really know too much about Mr. Mattis outside of his nickname and the fact that he's respected in the military world. But politics and policy, I don't really know a lot outside of what he put in the resignation letter, which seems to be a lot of globalism. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.